Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are
I'm
you?
doing pretty good.
Well,
You've
it's
had,
a gorgeous day here in Scottsdale.
oh, that's nice. Yeah, we have a lovely day here too. It's beautiful.
Okay.
How was your Mother's Day?
It was spectacular.
Good. Good. So when I called you, you had your youngest was over and did all your who all came over?
Oh, well, yeah, I had my younger daughter with her family who was there and coming over, but the amazing thing was the people from India who just showed up at our door. We didn't know they were coming, but they came just at the right time. And this is the family of Dorcas. Now, Dorcas is the throwaway baby. In other words, when my Aunt Belle was a missionary in South India, the policeman came to her door one morning with a naked baby girl in their arms, which they'd found in the cactus patch, and say that they didn't know what to do with it, so they brought it to the mission. And of course, what it was, everybody knew, is that the family that had this baby born into it, and it was a girl. When they wanted a boy, they threw her away.
And what year would this have been?
Well, let's see, she was 10 years younger than me. So I was in 1930.
Okay.
Okay. So um, she was thrown away, and my Aunt Belle got her and spent 2 hours with another missionary picking thorns, the cactus thorns out of the baby's body. And then she adopted her and raised her. And so Margaret and I, my sister and I, thought of her as our little sister. So Dorcas then, she grew up with Aunt Belle, and Aunt Belle sent her over here to Stirling College and all of that. And she went back to India and had a and met him. They She met a man, and they had a church in Varanasi, which is the uh, holy place where the Ganges comes down. It's an ongoing story that just goes on and on.
Love it.
But the beauty of it for us for Mother's Day is that her youngest son, who is now the the one who's working with the work that his parents did, which is a children's home at um, uh, there, and it's a home that my Aunt Belle started and that he
Oh,
grew up in, and so on. It's just a lovely thing. And they showed up at our house. We weren't expecting them, and all of a sudden, he and his wife were here, and they were here for Mother's
wow.
Day. Now, isn't that a wonderful?
Amazing. And so, had they just come to visit you, or do they have other relations in Scottsdale?
Well, the his wife is a Canadian, and they had come over uh, to Canada for a graduation of one of their children from the um, police academy
Okay.
in Canada. And so on their way back down to India, they stopped off in Scottsdale.
Wow. What an amazing surprise. That is so great.
Isn't that, you know how connected the whole world is right now? The work that I'm doing, that you're doing, the work that's being done all around the world, and then something like that happens, and it makes it just worthwhile, doesn't it?
That is so beautiful. I love that. I love that. I love that. Um, so can I, speaking of Mother's Day, I wanted to read something that that I read. It came in an email, and the woman, it's Elizabeth Gilbert. I don't know if you know who that is, but she's a writer. She's written a couple books, and she her book came a movie, Eat, Pray, Love, and she's traveled all around the world. Anyway, she's pretty amazing, and so she wrote this thing for Mother's Day. Um, well, it was in her newsletter. So, do you mind if I read
I
this?
would love it.
Okay. So, it's this piece was written by the poet. uh well, anyway, okay. Back in 1872, when Boston suffragette and poet Julia Ward Howe dreamed up the holiday of Mother's Day, she envisioned it as an expression of pure activism. She created the first Mother's Day as an angry, heartbroken cry for peace and global transformation in the bloody wake of the Franco-Prussian War, where so many mothers' sons had died, and for what? She wrote, "Why do not the mothers of mankind interfere in these matters to prevent the waste of that human life of which they alone bear and know the cost? There is indeed so much pain and suffering that mothers alone bear. To be a mother is to carry the world upon your shoulders. And mothers always have been the first to cry for peace when the world becomes violent and insane. Yet the story is more complicated than that, for it is also true that many people have been greatly and unspeakably harmed by their mothers. I was chilled recently to read in a government report that statistically speaking, the person most likely to abuse a child is not a stranger, a teacher, a father, a stepfather, or any other male authority figure, but a mother. Mothers by far exceed men in terms of how much physical abuse they dole out to children, which is a horrific truth to behold. And I know many women who find motherhood to be a devastating and almost impossible job, just as I know many women who wish with all their hearts that the title of mother could be theirs, but it never came to pass, despite all their efforts. And I know women who have lost their children or who are estranged from their children. So, what are we to make of this holiday then? How do we address it with all its ambiguities and shadows and difficult
Alexa,
nuances?
stop. I'm sorry. My
That's
Alexa started up.
um,
Alexa, stop. Okay, go
so
ahead.
so the last paragraph was, what are we to make of this holiday then? How do we address it with all its ambiguities and shadows and difficult nuances? So I just thought that was really, like, it's kind of heavy in that it brings up some, not great statistics for women and mothers, but it is a complicated holiday, and while some people really love it and they celebrate it and they honor their mothers, some people who don't have a mother, couldn't be a mother, or don't have a great relationship with their mother, it becomes really complicated.
Yes, because motherhood is complicated. Every child that you have, or that you adopt, or that walks into your home is a complicated, complex person who is um, experiencing their own life in their own way. And as mothers, the way I look at it, it's our privilege to help each other as mothers to uh, not just cope with motherhood, but to not to enjoy it in a way that we feel so privileged
Mm,
to be mothers. You know, it truly is a privilege not just to have birthed this child, you carry him in your own body for 9 months or so, and then they become their own person. But those months that you have carried them within your own body, you have been one unit.
right.
You've been the same person. What you eat, the baby eats. When you sleep, the baby sleeps. But then the baby comes a complete. So you're femifesting for all the time that the baby's within your womb. But when the baby is born and takes his own breath, you manifest this amazing human being. So it's a process of when you look at it in the uh, eyes of true love and life, it's one of the most, well, it is, I think, probably the most amazing thing to be uh, celebrated.
Mm. Yeah, I agree that, I mean, to me, it's, my greatest accomplishment is to have three children, grown people now that are really lovely people to hang out with.
Yeah.
But I will say, in the throes of parenting when they were young, it was really hard. And I wasn't married to somebody who was particularly thrilled to be a parent. And so it made it really complicated. And, it was funny because my young neighbor, just had a baby. And so I was, playing with him, and he's just the sweetest thing ever. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am going to be such a good grandmother because I don't have the stress of like just trying to navigate parenthood still with, my own inequities of trying to cope with the marriage and like all of the things. So it's so interesting. And I feel like it's too bad that we've come away from that. It takes a village. I mean, I know we all say that it takes a village, but literally to be living in a village with a lot of mothers and all the mothers are looking out for all the kids. What a beautiful way to raise children.
Yeah, really, really. Well, it's an amazing process wherever it is. I had an ayah who was like a second mother to me. I mean, she loved me and cared for me because my mother was busy working with the work that she had to do. She was a physician in India and she was taking care of people and so on. She didn't have time to do the kind of mothering that, uh, we think of. However, she did at night read the books to Margaret and me when we were out in camp, and we didn't have any other kids to play with except the Indian kids, but we had the book Heidi and Little Women and Little Men, and my mother would read it at night, read us to sleep.
Mm.
And there's certain memories like that are very, very precious. And so, hopefully, as mothers, we can share these with our children, these tender memories, because they're so important in a mother's heart.
Absolutely. And we just, so my kids, we, grew up in sort of the horsey kind of country part of Connecticut, which is outside of New Haven. And the kids went to a daycare that was just absolutely amazing. And it was on a farm, and she had two little horses and a big pig, and it was great. And Carolyn, who ran this daycare, she had done it for 45 years, and
Uh-huh.
she just passed away last week.
Oh,
And I went to her wake last night, and it was really amazing to see. There was a lot of people that were there that I recognized from, my oldest is now 30, so that was quite some time ago. And thinking about how many lives and how many families that she touched in 45 years of having a daycare, that was like a home. You know, it was her home. I mean, it was just amazing. And so to me, that feels like yet another grandmother or another mother type, right?
Yes. Well, there's so many dimensions of
Mm,
motherhood.
right.
You know, I think that's what I'd like to think about as we talk about this, because who, uh, you know, we can reach out and become a mother figure to somebody who is needing that kind of mothering, and we can also glory in the fact that we have our own children and grandchildren to be able to mother. Um, an honor and a privilege to do this. So uh, I just, well, on Mother's Day, little Taylor Rose, who is 3 years old, came here into my room, and she doesn't say anything. She walks up to my chair where I'm sitting quietly, and she just looks at me and smiles and then walks away. I mean, what a gift. That little, those big eyes, and then that big smile, and I can say, "Oh, you're such a pretty girl," and she just walks away. You know,
Oh.
feeling it that way. It's that kind of a deep connection that is awesome,
Mm.
absolutely awesome, and a true privilege.
Can you describe for anybody that's new that hasn't, you know, been on here for very long, catching us talking? Can you describe how you grew up and where you grew up? And you mentioned it a little bit about, you know, that your mother was working all day and doing her thing. So can you let us know like what was that experience for you like and where were you?
It was awesome. I grew up in northern India, and I didn't come to the United States until I was 10. Not that I remembered. I came actually when I was 2, but I don't remember that. But so so my whole childhood was in the camps and in the jungles of North India. During this time, my mother and father were physicians who were taking their medical work and mission work out to the people of North India, the village people who had never seen a white person. In fact, when I played with the little Indian kids, they tried to rub the white off my arms. They wanted me to be brown like them. So it's that kind of a childhood where uh, I was a different one,
Mm-hmm.
and but my privilege, among other things, of having that kind of an experience was to have an ayah. Now, an ayah was like a surrogate mother. My mother was so busy working with the patients and taking care of other people that I needed somebody to do the the day by day stuff that a mother needs to do. And our Aya was the one who did that. And she was an amazing person. When I was in school, uh, and I was dyslexic and I was a dumb one in the class. And so I was, I was really hurting when I went to school for 2 years. But when I came home, my Aya would be sitting at the top of the steps, and she would see me come up over the hill, and she would say, "Idarao, come here." And she'd hold her chadar, that's the shawl that the Indian women wear. She'd hold her arm out, shawl out, and I'd climb in under her wing and settle in down there until my world came back into focus and I could go on with my life. But she was that connecting point of
Oh.
the hard things that were going on in my life and the actual love and acceptance that was reaching out to me. And so, as we look at what happens in our lives and and can put our loving understanding into the hard things and the wonderful things that have happened in our lives as we've grown up. And mothers are people who, whether they're birth mothers or surrogate mothers or neighbors who become mothers or whoever they are, who take on the role of reaching out to each other and to the children in a way that is loving, is always healing. If it's a
Mm.
loving relationship, it's always a healing relationship.
And so can you describe, so you lived in the camps
Yeah.
and did you move camps? Did you move around?
Oh, yeah. My parents stayed in one village for 2 weeks and then moved to another village for 2 weeks and so on. So we moved through the jungle
Wow.
during this time. And at night, we'd hear the animals around. And, uh, we had dogs that were wonderful hunting dogs. And my parents and then my older brothers were hunters, and it was an amazing thing. But I ran around in the jungles with the Indian kids. We had amazing times.
Wow.
We climbed trees and went places. We got to go in and out of the temples because, kids so weren't forbidden. But so I got to go places in the Indian villages because I was with the kids that other people have not had the privilege of doing.
Mm. And since we're talking about mothers and Mother's Day, can you also then describe, because I can't even imagine the, the orphanage that your Aunt Belle ran was for the children that came from parents of lepers, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Well, Dorcas was the one that was thrown away, and she grew up to as Aunt Belle, you know, as Aunt Belle's daughter, as my little sister.
right.
And then in Bhogpur in northern India, my parents had started a little school for the children, little children who needed an education and so on, which expanded itself into becoming a school for the children of leper parents, because leprosy in India is still there.
Wow.
It's pretty much eliminated from the rest of the world, but leprosy in India is still an
Hmm.
issue. And the lepers still have children who grow up to be, they can't go to school anyplace unless there's a special school for them. And so my parents created this school, and it's still going on. And it's up in northern India. It's Bhogpur, right on the Ganges, shores of the Ganges River. And it's an amazing um, school for these children who otherwise would have been beggar children. They would have been with their parents sitting on the streets as beggars and
Mm.
having no education whatsoever, have grown up in this school. And on Mother's Day this year, Ben and Susan, who are the people who are now running the school, Ben being the younger son of Dorcas, the throwaway baby. And so he and his wife, who is a Canadian and a pharmacist, but they've been living, at the school and helping these children and running the school. They stopped by just out of the blue because they had gone to Canada to what to the graduation of their children. And to have the world connected in the way it is
Mm.
with the work that you and I are doing is awesome. But the work that has been done for years by people who have been reaching to each other from all around the world is awesome.
Well, it's just amazing. I mean, your parents were so ahead of ahead of their time. Like your mother certainly was ahead of her time in that she was a physician in the 20s.
Right, well,
Um,
she became a physician. She got her license in 1913.
wow. Wow. That's so.
Women weren't were, were didn't even have the privilege of having a passport. So when she went to India, she went as sort of luggage on my dad's passport.
It's kind of amazing that they even allowed her to go to school and become a physician when you think about it. With the,
Well, she kind of did it.
yeah.
It was, she made up her mind and she did it.
And they were both osteopaths,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
Um,
And
and
AT still accepted women. I mean, that was the beauty of it. It
hmm,
wasn't just the fact that she was able to do it, it's the fact that AT still had the
right.
reason, really deep understanding that women were important to this work too.
Yeah. Yeah. So why is leprosy still in India if
Oh,
we've
well, there's a good reason. It's been eliminated every place else in the world. But in India, if a shop or a store or something is having trouble with whatever, but they want to stop the uh, people from coming in, or they want to do if they want to make a statement, they can get 3 or 4 lepers to come and sit outside of their door, and nobody's going to come near except the people who want to hear something, and they can set up a way of talking to people or doing whatever they want to, because the leper sitting there will create a way in which people will come, but they won't come in or do what you can create a place where you can reach to other people by having lepers sit around the front of your porch or your door, and you can say what you need to say. It's an
wow,
amazing system.
wow. So they're using leprosy as a to a benefit.
Yes, yes, and when they have the lepers stay in a colony, they have a leper colony. My
Right.
parents created a church for the lepers, and the church has no walls. It has a roof, but you don't keep anybody out. But the leper colony has these children that are born there on the leper colony, and so they're the ones who come into the school and are the school that is created there for particular, because other parents don't want their children going to a school where leper children go.
Even though the children don't have leprosy.
No, the children don't have leprosy, but
Right.
they're contaminated by innuendo, you know.
Right. Right.
So, but this is an amazing school, and it's been going on ever since Aunt Bell and my parents started it.
Yeah, which is just so amazing. It's so
Yeah,
amazing. So, and Dorcas's son is running it, and like, it's just so great.
yeah, yeah. Isn't that wonderful?
Wow.
I mean, it's a,
Wow.
it's a living story. It's not just this could happen. It actually not only happened, it's still going on.
Right. It's a living legacy that your parents created.
Yeah,
Well, no wonder you're such a, I mean, yes, you don't fall far from the tree, as my father would say.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. You
Yeah.
know, you grow up with that view and vision of what life is supposed to be and how you're supposed to be a part of it,
Right.
and you just accept that.
So getting back to, I don't know, I'm going to turn this around a little bit. So when you were in practice and you were helping women during pregnancy and following, you had plenty of families that you followed along.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm sure part of your practice, because that's who you are, was really helping women in the struggle of being a mother.
Oh, yeah.
And, as a mother of six, you certainly come with a level of expertise and you can understand and relate to the challenges of being a mother. Um, so I guess I just want you to, if there's any particular story you recount, or, was there some thing, I mean, that would have been in the 50s and 60s, right? And 70s.
Well, I have the privilege now of hearing people say, well, you were my doctor when I was a little girl or I was a little boy.
Right.
In fact, I was doing a lecture one time, and one of the people who was they had a band and playing instruments and stuff. And before the band started playing, one of the men uh, from the band came up to the mic and said, "Well, you were my doctor when I was growing up." And what a what an amazing thing to find yourself standing there, and this wonderful young man who's a musician comes up and says, "You were my doctor when I,"
Yeah.
talk about reaching each other's hearts as you have just taken the steps that needed to be taken during your life.
Mm.
And there they are.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I had a woman recently, well, she was in today, but she came in, she's maybe 22, 23, has a 3-year old and a newborn. And she moved up here when she was pregnant with the second child, and she doesn't have a husband, and she's living with her aunt. It's kind of a complicated situation. And so the youngest baby now has colic. And so not only was I going to just check the baby spine wise and just see what was going on, but it was just really interesting. And that was sort of the part that I was like, oh, this is going to be so fun to be a grandmother. It was just like, your nervous system will co regulate to the baby's nervous system. So the calmer you are, the calmer this baby will become. And then I was telling them to use castor oil and rub it on the baby's belly. And, I just gave them a couple of little ideas that they could do. And they came in today and said that the baby was so much better. And after the castor oil had pooped a bunch, and, it was all really good. And so it is that part of it takes a village, and you just need somebody who's maybe done it to give you a little help, a little advice, So
Yeah.
I can only imagine these mothers that were going to you when they had children. Like, what a gift! What a gift to have you as their doctor.
Well, you know what is we need to be a gift to each other. It's sort of like I think if I'm walking down a path and it's dark and I have a flashlight and it's a good flashlight, so I can see the next step and the next step. But as I'm going down that path, maybe as I'm seeing these steps, there's a little flicker of light over in one side. And if I take my light and shine it with that light, it becomes huge. So it's that privilege that we have of if we have a light to shine and we help a flickering light get more light, it just enables them to become, to see more and be broader and become more.
Mm. Yes,
Isn't
indeed.
life, isn't life amazing?
It is, and it is complicated, and it is sad, and it is joyful, and it's just every single aspect we could imagine.
And if we can waken each day with the thought, oh, it's a glorious new day, thank God for the new day. I have a good friend, and I felt so sad the other day because she's in her late 90s. And she said she wakes up in the morning and says, oh, not another day.
Mm.
And I almost cried because I don't feel that way. And I think that it's what you're looking for. If you're looking for the pain and the hardship and the darkness, it's going to be there.
Yeah.
But if you can understand that if you're looking for the light, whoa, it's there.
So can you, I mean, did you say anything to her, like, or is it just she's never gonna be able to see it from your perspective?
No, I said to her, she said, I don't have anything to do. I can't see, and this, that, and the other thing. I said, well, you could listen to audiobooks. She says, yeah, but yeah. So anything that I suggested, she really rejected
Mm.
because she wasn't looking for them.
And so that's a tricky place because as much as we want to help, you can only help those which are looking for the light, which are looking to be helped,
who
you
are
know?
who are receptive to it.
Right. And so,
And it's important not to get uh, angry with them. I mean, this is their choice, and
yeah, it's
I
really
feel,
disappointing,
I
isn't it?
feel, yeah, I feel bad for her because I want her to feel the joy of a new day, but I can't do anything but point it out to her, and uh, and see what she does with that.
Yeah, it is. It's sad to watch people make that choice.
And it's our privilege to point out to them that they do have the choice, because sometimes somebody will catch on. They don't automatically drop it as something that they're not going to do. Some
Right,
people will pick it up.
right. Yes. So, gonna circle back to India. So, where were your grandparents? Did you grow up ever knowing them? Because they were probably in the States, right?
Well, yes and no. Um, I never met my grandmother Taylor. But when I was 2, I met my grandmother Seal. Now, grandmother Seal was my mother's mother, who had
Okay.
come over from Germany after World War II. So she was here and living in Cincinnati when I was 2 years old. And this is a family story that uh, she went. We went visiting at the home there, and Grandma Seal went down to the basement to do some washing, and I guess I followed down the steps behind her, and she was doing whatever she was doing, and I was sitting there, and I guess I was talking something in Hindustani or whatever. But she turns around and she says to me, "Do Baba Sufil," and I said, according to her, I lifted up my face and I said to her, "Do Baba Sufil yourself." And so she got to laughing and went upstairs to tell everybody that here I was. She was talking German to me, and I gave it right back to her with a yourself.
That is so funny.
And
What
then apparently,
what does that mean?
huh?
What does that
Or it's
mean?
you talk too much.
Oh,
Do babble to feel, babble. I was
yeah.
just
Oh,
babbling along. Do babble to feel. And apparently at the same during that same time, I had a cousin who was going to the university, and we were sitting at the dining room table, and she was talking about the university this and the university that, and apparently, as a 2-year-old, I piped up and said, "I go to university, not university." So, these family stories are kind of
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
And I think they remembered those because we didn't get over here very much. And so when we did, the families who were living here remembered those.
And so did they come over and visit while you guys were in India?
Uh, they
Like,
did they what?
did they come visit you in
Oh,
India?
no,
Your
no,
no.
no, no. We the family was allowed a furlough every 7.5 years so that they could come and reconnect with their family here.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing that it was only every 7.5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell
So
about your
how long did your
kindergarten birthday.
parents, how long did your parents stay in India altogether?
Well, they retired, I think, 4 times or 5 times or something. They tried to retire, but the people kept calling them back, and the school was still going on and so forth. So they really were, until they just couldn't travel anymore, went back practically every time that they could to continue with the work.
Wow. And so when you became a medical doctor, did you ever go over and help them once you were practicing?
No, never went over there because they were still working there. My sister went back when she was a nurse. She graduated from Johns Hopkins, and she went back and went to the hospital where uh, my brother Carl had been working in different, Fatigar Hospital where I was born, no. But when she got there, no, the nurses didn't have a manual. So she took her Johns Hopkins manual and translated it into Hindi so that the nurses had a
Well,
manual. I mean, we as a family, we did what we could do, but what I did get to do was go to Afghanistan, you know, later on
right.
when my brother Carl uh, made it possible for me to go to Afghanistan and help those women learn the secret of birthing baby.
Healthy babies, right.
Yeah.
Oh, so amazing. Somebody is commenting that you are an incredible, amazing human being.
Isn't life
Which
fun?
yes, life is fun, and it's just always such a pleasure that we get to have these conversations and talk about whatever it is we want to talk about.
That's true. And when you think about it, my mother was a mother to those children at the children's home. Then Aunt Belle was a mother to those children. Her children are mothers to those children.
Right.
This whole process of, and not just process, the privilege of being mothers and grandmothers and able to fit into a awesome role that is so honorable. I mean, I feel so honored by having the role of grandmother and how many great grandmother and all of that. Isn't that awesome?
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Somebody just is commenting that they're watching from West Africa.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, how
Yeah.
lovely.
It's so amazing. Yeah. It's so amazing. Oh, Gladys, you are just a treasure.
Oh,
So,
isn't
so
it, isn't it, isn't it fun? I mean, think about, oh, it stretches my mind to think about the people that I'm getting to meet and love around the world. It's
right.
just absolutely awesome.
Okay, I'm from India. I'm happy to see you too. And I have somebody who just has a quick, maybe not quick question, and then we'll have to wrap up. But here's the question. Does Gladys still believe in reincarnation, or does she believe in the Christian worldview of death and life in eternity with Christ?
I believe in, that life goes on. It seems that reincarnation fits into the pattern. And if people want to believe that, that's great. If I want to believe it, that's okay. If my kids want to, one way or the other, for what works for them, I accept that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on that note, our last comment is I love Gladys with a heart next to it. So,
Oh,
so with
I
that,
love you.
I will also say I love Gladys and so happy to always be here. And we're happy you've all joined us and join us every Tuesday at 1. Oh, although John said next Tuesday we're not going to be here.
Right.
Because you are going to be on with, how do you say his name, John?
Chatterjee.
Dr. Chatterjee. You're going to be on his podcast, which is amazing. So, so next week we will not be here, but we will rejoin 2 weeks from today.
And Katie, I have to thank you. You're the one who got this started.
Oh,
It's
it
about
has been my pleasure.
it's been 4 or 5 years ago that we started this.
Amazing.
Wasn't
So amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love
I
it.
do too. I
All
do
right.
too.
All right, everybody. Love to all
Love
of you,
you.
and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.